did it feel going that fast? Were you anticipating? Was there any practice, any reps with all that?
Well, we were second place last year, trying to get the first place this year.
I think you guys could do that. How are we feeling over there?
Good, feeling good.
All right, boys, congratulations. We'll see you a bit later. Back to you guys.
And we're underway. I've got my childhood out there. Miranda Vice, dressed like Miami Vice. They are bringing up the rear right now.
Hey, Snap on Fun is having a great time right now. Look at how quickly they're rolling along. Miranda Construction along with them here. It's Construction, the B team.
They are making a comeback slightly, but it looks like Snap on Fun is going to snap on to the victory. All they have to do is get there, just avoid all of the cones, and they're going to do it. Snap on Fun takes the second heat in the Fun division.
Hey, Kendrick, how about a flawless run right there for Snap on Fun? We're going to head straight into race number 3. It'll be a battle of the electricity. LG&E going up against Zoller, the pumping unit. Who can pump and who can throw out that electricity
Who's going to
today?
be electrifying?
I don't know, Kendrick. I'm really hyped up already. Race number 3 is about ready to go, and we are at the starting gate.
Hey everyone, thanks so much. News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We wanted to, first of all, apologize for coming on a little bit late. I know you were looking at the prescribed burn for a moment, but we came up on some exciting happenings coming to us out of Kentucky Derby land. So we were watching live as we were seeing some of the great bed races that kick off here Kentucky Derby Festival week as we look ahead to Saturday being the Derby itself. So with it, we want to send you back now live to the Kentucky Derby great bed races where you can see competition is underway, just part of a fun event where coworkers are urged to get together, make a team, build a bed on wheels, decorate it, and then obviously race to the finish as you see. Let's listen in live once again.
Go down to Jose. As soon as Zoller gets over there, LG&E is still about to cross the finish line.
The power went out initially for LG&E.
Yes, it did.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
How'd it feel?
it felt great.
All right, what was the strategy going in there?
Guys holding down the outside and hammering hard on the straightaway.
I got to tell you, I love the angle here on your bed. That was done on purpose, was it?
We have a sleep
Oh, yeah,
bed.
aerodynamic.
We have a sleep bed.
So comfort and speed.
Is that time that you wanted? You felt pretty good on the speed there.
They did it.
Take the credit, boys.
Sure, it's a team effort.
All right, a very humble team right here. We'll send it back to Kendrick and Dusty.
All right, we are ready for our next race. This will be Industrial Kiln and Dryer versus Ivy Tech Community Team in the Fun division.
So the question really is the rotary equipment going to help, or is it an education? We're about to find out. On the outside we go. It's Industrial Kiln with an early lead
They got
here.
off to a very fast start. I like the way they're rolling around this course here.
Oh, we might have had contact with a cone. Did you see that hurdle over there, Kendrick? That is pure athleticism.
That was
Looks
Lamar
like
Jackson.
Yes, Adrian Peterson was my initial thought. Lamar Jackson would make more sense right now. Look at this.
Kiln coming down the stretch.
They're
It looks like
killing
they're
them.
going to have an
They're
easy
killing
win.
them.
Industrial Kiln and Dryer, they take the lead.
What a victory for Industrial Kiln and Dryer. They did not dry out. Look at them. They are out of breath, but what an opportunity it was, a victory. You are listening and watching the Samtech Great Bed Races right here at Broadbent Arena. We will be right back after the break.
Okay, folks, that was a little bit of a taste here of this preview event kind of kicking off Kentucky Derby Festival Week. Once again, Kentucky Derby will be watchable on our network. So we've got Saturday starting at noon on USA Network, NBC, and Peacock, the Derby itself. But if we can get back to some of the fun and games there of the great bed races, we will. Meantime, we're keeping an eye on Matthews, and it looks like there's a discussion underway via leaders there. Let's listen in on their meeting right now.
Center, but the fact that that is going to be housed here in Matthews And what it's actually going to do will be you know more than I do, but we really need to showcase what an incredible training center that's going to be, not just for our first responders, but first responders across the state, across the region, and from multiple states. That is going to be a really, really, really big deal. And I'm looking forward to having them present more publicly and to you all as well, so that we can do a better job of communicating that to the public of what it's actually going to be. As you know, first responders have my heart. I come from a family of first responders, so that was really exciting. The budget process, obviously, that took up most of our time this past month in the legislature, especially on the Senate side. And so while we don't have an official update, it did pass through the Senate. It's on its way to the House. We know there are a lot of things being changed and updated. So as that moves forward, I look forward to bringing more solid updates with regards to the budget, what we're looking for within that. Now let's talk about zoning and downzoning and all of those bills that have everybody in an uproar. I did file a bill to omit all of Mecklenburg County, including Mint Hill and Matthews, from what have been deemed to be I see it as an overreach. I've been in real estate for almost 30 years, and that is such a hyper local issue. No one knows their communities, their neighborhoods, and their townships better than you. And I think that should be left in your hands. And so I'm working very hard within our caucus across the aisle, and also with House members as well. When you're speaking of those House bills that are coming up, I had a long Zoom meeting this afternoon, and they will be in my office. I'm leaving from here to go to Raleigh. They'll be in my office with the League of Municipalities and Communities to talk specifically about those bills. And they really are working hard to get those amended and make them a little more palatable for communities. Again, not to have developers dictating what is and isn't in the realm of their work to override what you think might be best for the area. So I want you to know that even though that is in the House, I am working well with all of them being from the real estate industry, and I am really, really fortunate that they're asking for my input. And then, showcasing our community college system here all over CPCC, which is wonderful, again, for Matthews. It's getting a lot of attention in the General Assembly, and we are really hyper-focused on the education to work pipeline, and CPCC right now is a shining star, and they really are looking at the Harrison Levine campuses as the models for the rest of the state. And I want to congratulate you because everything that you've put in place to let them do what they want to do and encourage that and have it housed here in Matthews is another wonderful shining star for everything that you're doing. I tell people that even though I live in Charlotte, I'm a small town girl. I am from a town that is very much like Matthews. And I liked what John Urban said today in front of the room. He said, we're a growing city, but it's our people that give it the small town charm. And that spoke to my heart, because that's how I feel about all of Charlotte. It's one big giant little town that's now just merging with everything. So I just thank you for always welcoming me, your common sense ways that you do things for the town. I wish that other town councils could model more after you. I've been in here when it was spicy, and it was great because it was a very healthy and robust debate. And I would like for you to come to Raleigh sometime and talk to some of my colleagues about how to get things like that done, because we could definitely use it on the Senate floor for sure. So I look forward to seeing you more with updates. You'll be seeing me at least every other month from here on out. I think it's important to be visible and build that pipeline between Raleigh and Matthews, and that's something that I'm very proud to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from anyone? Okay, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And if you come here every other month, you will by far break the record of any representative we've ever had in my lifetime that I can recall.
Oh, wow. Well, no, that's part of my job, and I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
Just a follow-up comment I have on CPCC. Many of you know that I grew up in this area. I attended South Mecklenburg High School back in the 70s, and we had some events at CPCC, and I recall all the way back then that CPCC was rated one of the top community college systems in the entire United States, and it has maintained that reputation. So we're very, very blessed to have them in our area, and particularly in Matthews. So thank you. We're going to skip over agenda item number 5, and when we adopt the agenda, it's kind of in a backwards order. That was information on the Matthews Historical Foundation, Bob Aycock. That item will be removed from the agenda and will take place on May 27th. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to adopt our agenda, plus what other amendments? Town Manager, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have to add a budget amendment to item 10D, the jetback truck that was left off of your packet. So we will take a look at a budget amendment to go along with that conversation later on this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Second. A motion by Commissioner McCool, second by Commissioner Urban. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. Going to move on to agenda item number 7, public comment. Anyone who's registered in advance will speak first. After that, anyone in the audience who wishes to speak may do so. Speakers have 5 minutes and are requested to provide their name and address. The first person that we have signed up is Celeste McMinn. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for letting me speak. I look forward to CJ's presentation later. I don't have all the questions that I will have because I don't know the full report of our item 9A, that H&H study for Hampton Green, but just so that we know, I do have a couple of questions, so we could get started on that. First of all, thank you for doing the H&H study. We really appreciate you guys listening to our issues in our neighborhood. I can't speak for the whole neighborhood, but I do appreciate you, from my perspective, looking at why our yards are flooding. There are 3 different options, I guess, that the H&H study provides that I'm sure CJ will represent well. But a few things that, like, I just want to put this in front of you when we do discuss it, is if you look on the left, that's the pond from 2015, and then an aerial image from January of this year. So we're upstream. If you go under that road there, we're upstream there, and we are flooding into our backyard. We have a lower lying neighbor that's having a lot more issues than us, but it's coming up pretty high, and the current is moving pretty quickly. So I don't believe, I will let the H&H studies speak whenever, because he can read it better than I can. I obviously cannot. But if we are having the same volume of water or more volume of water coming downstream from all the upstream development, it does not appear to me, and I'm not an engineer, but it does not appear to me that we have the amount of room for the water to go as we did 10 years ago. So when we look at that, I just wanted you guys to kind of have a mental image of what it looks like it's filled in, and I don't know how deep it is, but that could be causing some of our issue. The other issue that I just wanted to, let's see. So the other thing is we started experiencing, we had one flood several years ago, but it was when there was a beaver dam across on the other side of the road. That was taken care of, but since that's been taken care of and since it's been cleared, we had not had a lot of flooding issues until we contacted you guys. So it doesn't appear in the firm's report that the construction contributed to the flooding. So one of my questions is just going to be, what is contributing to the increased water flow that we're having? And how can the town really help to assist us in what we can do for our properties? And we just really want to get to the root cause. We came to you guys for help, and we would like help. And I appreciate you listening to us thus far, but I don't think the work is quite done yet, just based on my glance at the report.
Okay. Can you show us where you live?
Sure. My house.
We have a pointer.
I didn't give you a lot of slides, and my apologies. I didn't want to inundate. So if you come up here, I think Mike and Danielle's house, I'm like 2 houses up here.
Okay.
But I mean, I think obviously you can see the width of that. I mean, that's pretty substantial. And the dam, so that pond stays full now. The water comes all the way up to the dam all the time now, whereas it used to go down, and the dam is like probably in this corner here. I don't know for certain, but I think it's down there. And like we talked about before, when the water got up so high, it was moving so fast. There was a bridge behind my house. I mean, you know, an 8-foot maybe bridge. And it picked it up, it sent it under that culvert, and it pushed it all the way down. The other question I just had is about the culvert. I know that they said it's a 200-year flood culvert, but we did identify some damage to it. Like there was an 18-inch sinkhole right above it, and then the head wall had.
Okay, folks, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We've been listening in live to the Matthews Board of Commissioners town meeting. We're in public commentary. Just a little bit of a heads up on what we're expecting a bit later this evening. There's supposed to be some new information on a possible partnership with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education for a location spot for the new Discovery Place Kids location that's coming to Matthews. So once we get to that item agenda, we can bring you back and listen to that discussion. Meantime, we do want to have a little bit more fun here and bring you back to the bed races that are underway in Kentucky, giving a kickoff here to Kentucky Derby Festival Week. And backstory, if you see a lot of pink, that's because this year's theme is Happy Derby, Pink Out Party. And we're talking about 80s style pink, which is probably why we're seeing a lot of hot pink there. These are team members. These are, you know, co-workers who are coming together, forming teams. They've made this bed on wheels. They've dressed it up. They've got costumes, and they're racing to the finish. So let's listen in now live.
Nice run there, fellas.
That was a beautiful run right there.
That was a nice run right there.
They don't
Hey,
look like
we got 2 more cones right here.
Hey, you know what? You can take those home, guys. Don't worry. All right. Well, we're going to stick with our races here. We got a couple more races to go in this second segment.
We are back in the fun division. Fives Intralogistics Court versus Double Dare Dudes. They're coming up next here in this next race. As soon as we
can Five
get the course set back up.
Intralogistics get a victory here today, Kendrick?
It's going to be tough out there. See if they had two beds racing back to back, so it's going to be tough for them.
All right, how many cones will that bed eat today?
Not as many as the wave bed's going to when they come up.
Yeah, crowd be ready for that one. That'll be one for sore eyes.
Our coworkers love it so much.
Yes, they do. All right, we're ready for our next race here.
This is the fun division. It's Fives Intralogistics Corp versus Double Dare Dudes. They are underway. We got some cone eating already.
Well, that's a hot start for both.
I mean, having to race back-to-back races is not easy.
No,
especially when one of them was the champion division. But we have a close race so far.
Hey, you know what? It's an easy pace. Not too fast, not too slow.
Yes, we have some stalkers in this race.
All right, wait a second here. This one could come down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. There goes a cone. There goes a cone.
And
down the stretch they go. On the outside, Fives Intralogistics. Can they do it? Can they secure glory?
They have secured glory, and they get a win in their second chance at it, this time in the fun division rather than the champion division.
Against all odds, their material handling equipment comes through today.
Double Dare Dudes knocked down double the amount of cones, and that slowed them up in this race.
What a valiant effort it was on the other end, though.
Let's keep it rolling here. On to our next race, another one in the fun division. I would rather be reading. My boy Dion Reese out there taking on the Dozers. That's a great name for a bed race, the Dozers.
Well, it's a great name unless they start coming in contact with a cone. That might be problematic.
Don't sleep on the Dozers.
Don't sleep on the Dozers.
That's my pun for the day.
Can they be bulldozers today? That is the question.
And they are off. Early lead for the Dozers.
Is that Princess Peach?
I'd rather be reading or realizing how difficult this course is.
What is she doing in there to help the team?
We got Edwin Moses back here.
What is she doing to help the team? Look, she's sitting there.
But the Dozers, they are way out ahead in this one. I would rather be reading is just plowing right through this course.
She might as well get a book out and start reading.
And the Dozers are going to put I would rather be reading to sleep, and they're going to cross the finish line here without a problem.
Wow, they didn't read the instructions very well for this one. There goes the cones. She's reading a book. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back. They still may not finish the race by the time we come back.
Coming up soon.
Okay, lots of fun there. as folks, as we mentioned before, are getting ready for the Kentucky Derby this Saturday, which you can watch right here on WCNC Charlotte, starting at noon. We have been keeping an eye on various meetings and also happenings, and so hopefully if we can obviously take you back to the bed races, we will. We'll have a little bit more fun with that. We also are watching the process of this Atlas V launch that happened just moments ago, and we can talk about the project itself, but it looks like everything has kind of launched all right, and it's still in the process of getting to its final location. So we're going to try to get to that if we can in just a few moments. And then we will be keeping an eye on a couple of meetings tonight. So we talked about Matthews and the potential new information on the new Discovery Place location that's slated for the Matthews area. If you're familiar, this is the Learning Museum, and there's one in Uptown. There are other locations too around the state, and so Matthews seemingly very excited about this new venture and opportunity for kids to learn about STEM in the area. But we're expecting some more detail on actually where this could be happening, where, you know, there it sounds like there is a potential agreement that could be taking place with CMS. So we'll wait to hear that. And we are also keeping an eye on Charlotte City Council. Actually, I can tell you who's speaking right now. This is Katie Ferrioli. She's a volunteer with CMPD Animal Care and Control. We know that volunteers have been pushing really hard for not only more shelter resources due to overcrowding happening at the animal shelter, but also the separation of CMPD from the actual Animal Care and Control Bureau, essentially letting police focus on police matters and let animal care and control focus on animal care and control. Let's listen in live now.
Which is up from 117 in 2024. Staff and volunteers work tirelessly to reduce the pain and suffering of these shelter pets, but despite our best efforts, the incoming tide of animals is too high. Euthanasia rates are up as we struggle to make space, keep animal stress levels as low as possible, and meet this ever-increasing need. City workers are exhausted, volunteers are demoralized, and healthy and loving pets are dying because we cannot keep up. Our first ask is for ACC to be moved out from under the police department in a transition that is meaningful in regard to its impact on staff salaries. In order to ensure adequate shelter staffing, employee positions and titles must accurately reflect the difficult work they do to be comparable to other cities the size of Charlotte. Additionally, moving the department out from under CMPD will allow for an easier volunteer application process, as well as a direct line from the shelter to the city manager, shelter director to the city manager. More autonomy, less red tape, and salary increases will ensure the shelter is more efficient and dynamic in its processes and missions. Secondly, a new and state-of-the-art shelter is needed. With best practices in place regarding animal welfare and community support, we can reduce some of the stress, trauma, and anxiety of animals and people alike while at the facility. We must ensure new facilities support the dramatic increase in intake numbers we've seen as Charlotte continues to grow. We recognize that these solutions are just some of many that we need to address. We recognize the need for ongoing discussion, and innovative thinking must continue in order to alleviate the stress and pain of these pets.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping us in mind.
All right. Our next two speakers are Christian Lasprilla and Jason Sherrill. Thank you. Close enough, right? Thank you very much. If you'll come down, both of you. Thank you. Yes, please, go ahead and start.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kristen Lasprilla, and I'm from District 7. I'm here tonight to urge you to approve funding to expand the shelter and make animal care and control independent from CMPD. In just the first few months of 2025, foster families like mine have received more than 25 emails and urgent pleas from ACC, desperate calls to save animals who aren't coping well in the shelter environment and often have days left before euthanasia. Those 25 emails represent hundreds of animals who are loved and cared for by staff and volunteers who work tirelessly to save every animal that they encounter. I want to paint a real picture of what it's like right now. On March 14th, we had 43 dogs surrendered to the shelter. 4 days later, on March 18th, we had a typical day where 11 dogs went to foster homes and 13 were adopted. Yet that left us with only 18 kennels open. Just 3 days later, on March 21st, an additional 43 dogs were brought in as strays or surrendered. So 40-plus dogs a day coming in and less than 25 going out. It's easy to do the math, and this is not an unusual cycle. So far this year, the shelter has been under an emergency space shortage more than 13 times. That's an urgent crisis every other week. The shelter staff and volunteers work miracles with what they have. But the truth is the system is stretched to a breaking point. Foster families open their homes to these animals because there simply isn't room in our current shelter. Every message that our families receive is another life on the line. ACC desperately needs the additional space that the shelter expansion project would provide. The staff also need the ability to manage its resources, make fast decisions, and tailor solutions specifically for the animals and the people who care for them. And that cannot fully happen while tied to CMPD. We appreciate your support to ensure that these animals...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hear you. Please begin. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Charlotte leaders. My name is Jason Swarzinski, and I've had the privilege of calling Charlotte my home for nearly 9 years now. Tonight, I'm here to advocate for moving animal control out from the CMPD umbrella and to request additional funding for animal control. The data is clear. As cities grow, the increased support that for animal welfare services is needed. More people means more animals and more that animal control must manage and house. To illustrate my point on this urgent issue, as Charlotte has continued to grow between 2020 and 2024, the intake of animals grew by an average of 7.5% annually. Based off the first quarter of 2025, we're on track to see more than a 17% increase in the number of animals taken in compared to 2024. The last time kennel space was added to Charlotte's animal control system was 1993, more than 3 decades ago. Since then, the city's population has grown 114%, yet not one single permanent additional kennel has been added to this rising demand. The funding allocated for animal control has failed to keep up with the pace of the city's rapid growth. Here's another sobering fact. Without outside donations, the animal control would only have the resources to house animals that it's legally required to for 4 months out of the year. Currently, only approximately 2/3 of the dogs under the Charlotte Animal Control System are not even housed in one of their facilities. They're in foster's homes. No other municipality in the country operates with this ratio of foster dogs. This speaks volumes about the commitment that Charlotte residents have shown to prevent euthanasia. The question now is will you as leaders do the same? Euthanasia cannot be the answer, and unfortunately it has been far too often. The handout that you guys have been given is about a dog that myself and my partner are currently fostering named Farah. Recently, she had surgery to remove her leg.
Thank you very much. We still have your pamphlet, and we
Thank you.
have the photo in the back. And Farah, our next 2 speakers are Diana Pollard and LeBecca Rowe. Good to see you again. Ms. Pollard, do you want to go first?
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Diana Pollard, and I'm proudly serve as the President of NARED Charlotte, the local chapter of the National Association of Hispanic and Real Estate Professionals, the largest Latino business organization in the country. Tonight, I'm not here alone. I'm joined by my fellow NARED members, industry partners, and community leaders who are united by the shared commitment to expand access to the American dream throughout homeownership. And I would like for them to please join me and stand up to please be recognized. These are professionals working every day with families who dream of putting down roots in Charlotte, families who are striving, contributing, and building our city's future. We're here to share a key finding from the 2024 State of Hispanic Homeownership Report, which one of you will receive it individually by our partner. Families who are striving. The Hispanic homeownership rate has now increased for 9 consecutive years, reaching 49.5%, and that growth is not accidental. It's the result of the hard work, sacrifice, and resilience. However, progress does not mean the work is done. Many of our communities still face steep challenges, rising prices, limited inventory, and structural barriers to credit and lending. And these are not just numbers to us. These are clients, our neighbors, our family, and the people that are here today. We support your initiative, like affordable housing development and the city-owned properties for development of the affordable housing. NAREP Charlotte stands ready to be partner to bring insight data and lived experience to the table. We want to work with you to help shape housing policy that is inclusive, forward-thinking, and rooted in equity. Thank you for everything you have done.
Thank you. If you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Lyles and City Council members. My name is LeBecky Rowe. I am the founder and executive director of Let's Talk About It, the Autism Center. But more importantly, I am a parent, an advocate, and a voice for thousands of families in Charlotte living with autism. Autism is not a disability, it is a different ability. When my son was diagnosed with autism, the rate was 1 in 179. Today, it's 1 in 131. Yet resources, especially for adults, have not kept pace. Look around this room. Autism has no look. Statistically, at least 2 people here are on the spectrum. Even more are undiagnosed, and countless families are walking this journey, often feeling unseen. Let that sink in. In Mecklenburg County alone, more than 10,000 individuals are on the spectrum. Over 80% of adults are unemployed because they can't. It's not that they can't work, but it's because they haven't been given the opportunity. Charlotte has an incredible chance to lead in inclusion, to show the nation what's possible when we invest in training and community programs that welcome neurodivergent people. Over the last 20 years, I have worked with CMS, United Way, and Mecklenburg County's Crisis Intervention Team. I've seen Charlotte's heart, and I know what we are capable of. I ask you tonight not only to support these efforts, but to allow Let's Talk About It.
Turning now from this public comment session that's happening during the Charlotte City Council meeting tonight to some weather coverage from elsewhere in the nation. Just a little perspective here. We're following a couple potentials for severe weather underway in both Minnesota and Iowa. So we want to take you now to continuous coverage from KARE 11 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they've been dealing with intense thunderstorms. We've seen some reports of hail and some power outages, and there's the potential of tornadoes for the area. Let's listen in live.
Was a funnel cloud that was reported just north of the Princeton area. That also fizzled as well. We had baseball-sized hail just as the storm began to develop, and this was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be that kind of day. And since then, it's been fairly underwhelming, especially considering all the press that this thing got. But we're still seeing some pretty significant weather in the southern corner of the state. We still have one tornado warning, which is for eastern Faribault County and moving into the Freeburn County area until 7 o'clock this evening. That will eventually move into the Albert Lee area. But most of these storms, at least right now, compared to what was expected, are a bit more bark than bite, I would say.
Yep. With the exception of what's happening right now as we speak from Goodhue County down to Fairmont County as well, or Faribault County. You know, you have to understand that there's, you know, a slew of meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center and in the National Weather Service, and they were all looking at exactly the same thing, and the potential was there. And so that is exactly why they went ahead and they put that big watch out. They don't do that very easily, where they throw, you know, tens and tens, or let's say 100 to 150 counties were under a tornado watch. That doesn't happen without really a lot of science behind it. So that is exactly what the Weather Service has done. And as Ben mentioned, in case you didn't get to that because you guys had such a good question there, and I know that's exactly what we want to talk about, what people are thinking about. They've gone ahead and preemptively allowed the Twin Cities to be expired, to be canceled, I should say, not to expire, but to be canceled out of the watch because they realize the storm isn't going to hit us. So now the only area that's under the tornado watch is areas off to our east and to our south where the storm is still moving through. So that's still out until 11 o'clock this evening as the storm is moving off to the east.
And we still want to mention, too, that this storm wasn't nothing. There were
and there are still
some
people in the path here. You guys, that's why we're still in the air.
These folks are down here. It's absolutely, you kind of think, it didn't hit me, so why are you on? Well, it's hitting these folks.
Well,
so
Hope, Minnesota had golf ball size hail. Owatonna just saw quarter-size hail. That's a storm that's moving into northwestern Dodge County right now. So, this storm system did produce some sizable hail. I'm not seeing a great indication of tornadic activity. If you're just joining us and you're just tuning in, we have one tornado warning that's in effect right now for far eastern Faribault County and now into the Freeborn County area. It's radar indicated. We have yet to receive reports on the ground from people that are watching this storm spotters, but it's just that radar is picking up on some rotation going on within this thunderstorm. Moving further north, you can see some other of these severe thunderstorm warnings that include parts of Steele County now, Wabasha County, now into eastern Goodhue County and eventually Pepin County as well. These severe thunderstorm warnings go until 7:15 this evening. And the main feature with this is producing hailstones up to 1 inch and maybe 1.25 inches in diameter, and maybe some wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, so still affecting all those folks to the south as well. And those sirens are going off in all those counties to the south, from Albert, Lee, all the way up to just south of probably in Goodhue, the town of Goodhue in Goodhue County.
Okay, folks, we're going to keep an eye on this weather impact activity in Minnesota, but we want to pivot quickly back to the Charlotte City Council meeting just because we've come on public speaking item that we expected to happen today. We've got folks from the airport. These are workers who say that they're pushing for a policy called CASE, which they say essentially would improve their pay and their working conditions there at the airport, an ongoing lobbying effort that we've been seeing for several months at this point. Let's listen in now as some of those folks are taking the podium to speak.
People are leaving because this is not a stable job. The turnover rate is so high. The pay is too low for the amount of work that we do. We're also exposed to injuries, pushing 2 passengers at once sometimes, handling their luggage and walking miles through the airport. By the end of the day, I'm exhausted. Our workload has doubled and we barely get our breaks. The situation isn't safe for us as workers, and it's definitely not safe for the passengers we serve. We're asking for more than just talk. We need actions. We're asking you, City Council, to recognize the value we bring, not just in words, but in fair wages, proper staffing, and safe, dignified working conditions. We submitted a letter today. Yes. Explaining why the ordinance is legal. Now we need you to hold a committee hearing. Ensure the airport has standards that help retain experienced workers like me, because the truth is, when you invest in us, you invest in a city that works for everyone.
Our next speaker is Denisha Branch and Dorothy Griffin. Miss Branch, tell me who you are. I'm sorry. I want to make sure we get everybody. Denisha Branch and Dorothy Griffin.
Oh, is this one?
Step up one.
Is she up?
She's at the top. She's up there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now I see. Thank you very much. All right, so please, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. First and foremost, I would like to thank God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit for protecting me. And I would also like to thank you guys for allowing me to speak on today. My name is Denisha Branch, a native of Rayford, North Carolina, who made Charlotte my place of residency over 14 years ago. In a city that is rapidly expanding in various sectors, Charlotte is a beautiful city, very dynamic city, with a population of over 2 million. A city I chose to call home, raise a family, have a children's brand, and so much more. On May 13th, 2023, I spoke at Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston's town hall meeting held at the Imaginon Library about hope. Hope that as a community, we would come together as one and show the world that Charlotte is attractive, not only due to its economic prospects, southern charm, sports team, and diversity, but it's a city where council members diligently work to give hope to the hopeless, opportunities for the underprivileged, a home to the homeless, a voice to those that have been silenced, and hope to all that experience this vibrant city. It's now April 28, 2025, and I'm speaking about hope from a different spectrum. On July 17, 2023, I was wrongfully shot by CMPD while in my home with my then 8-year-old daughter. This incident changed the facets of my life in many ways. The lucrative financial stability I once knew was snatched away. Daily mommy-daughter time was snatched away. Our home and the life we were building were all snatched away. Where's the hope that I once saw in this vibrant city? As a person who has now experienced homelessness and living in my vehicle and rejection from resources that's designed to help those in need, where is the hope? Where's the hope when you email the mayor and city council members, but no one acknowledges it? In the city you once saw as a beacon of light has turned into a beacon of darkness. And a city forever changing, let's be a city of light, a city that builds hope again.
Ms. Branch, thank you. Ms. Branch. Ms. Branch, we've asked Sean to come and speak with you so that we can get your story and understand, because we do believe in hope in this community. So thank you very much. Sean, would you go with Ms. Branch and help her walk through her concerns? Thank you so much.
No, she's March 21.
Okay.
Because also
our next speaker, she's there.
She started talking already.
She's already started to talk. All right, we need someone to be sure that helps with the speaker. We can have someone from the staff come up and make sure that the speaker is working correctly.
Hello? Hello?
It's not working. Okay, thank you.
My name is Dorothy Griffin, and I've been working at the airport for 8 years. I have worked as a terminal cleaner, a cabin cleaner, and now I'm working inside of the pro shop for ABM, ensuring that the workers who clean American airline planes have the proper material. I play an important role in ensuring safe travel for passengers, but it is hard to do my job when I run out of equipment to give them. My co-workers, they sometimes don't have enough supplies to clean properly, they barely get breaks, and are constantly rushed. On top of all of that, we are making poverty wages. That's why we have such a high turnover. I am tired of not being appreciated for all our hard work, even in difficult conditions. It's a never-ending struggle not making ends meet. I am always half a month behind on my rent because it takes both checks to pay my rent. I just had to give up my car because I couldn't afford the payments. It was either a car or a place to stay, and I can't stay in my car, so I chose a place to stay. Sometimes I don't even have money to buy groceries for the week. Sadly, I am not the only one at the airport that's living like that. Council members, you can make a difference to high turnover rates at CLT and make the airport safer. Introduce CASE into committee, find a solution and act now. Keep experienced workers like me on the job with proper pay, good benefits and trainings. Ensure that the passengers at CLT are safe and in good hands. Thank you.
Our next speakers are June Blotnick and Justine Lamogola. Thank you.
Is it just me?
Organizer from Sun Carter.
Please.
Okay. I'm June Blotnick. I'm co-founder of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Climate Leaders, a broad coalition of 15 environmental and health-related organizations, including Charlotte Heat Mappers. While the city continues to make progress reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the dangerous impacts of our quickly warming planet threaten many lives in the Queen City. We strongly support the People's Budget request related to the proposed new code requirement for air conditioning. Specifically, we ask the city to fund a pilot program providing $2 million for energy-efficient air conditioning units for 400 rental apartments. Dr. Aaron Levy of Wake Forest University School of Medicine here in Charlotte shared his concern with me about this yesterday. Quote, with the increasing trend of extreme heat, the health of our community faces increased risk for heat-related illness, including heat stroke. Especially vulnerable populations include infants and young children, the elderly, pregnant women, outdoor workers, and athletes, people with chronic medical conditions, low-income populations, and marginalized racial and ethnic groups. Air conditioning can reduce the risk of heat-related illness and mortality. For example, infants can have difficulty regulating their body temperature, and exposure to extreme heat puts them at greater risk for health effects than the general population. Installing energy-efficient air conditioning units is an important preventative measure to reduce the risk of heat-related illness, especially for these vulnerable populations. Air conditioning equals climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Good evening. My name is Justine Lamoglia. I proudly serve as a flight attendant with 12 years of service and a representative of the Association of Professional Flight Attendants at American Airlines. Today, I stand in solidarity with the hardworking members of 32BJ SEIU, people who are the spirit of our airport. They are the wheelchair agents, cabin cleaners, workers who assist the elderly and disabled, maintain facilities and aircrafts, load bags, and help keep our operation running smoothly every single day. CLT recently became the 6th busiest airport in the world, bypassing LAX. American Airlines employs over 15,000 employees at CLT, and we are welcoming and growing more each year. But with that growth comes responsibility to not just meet the demands of passengers, but to support the people who make growth possible. Right now, many of these essential workers are making poverty wages. Some are even experiencing homelessness. They don't receive fair benefits or get paid time off. This has contributed to high turnover rates and understaffing. With the increasingly unaffordable cost of living and housing, we are pushing out the very workers who make the airport thrive. The contracted airline workers who ready your aircraft for the next journey, or the contracted wheelchair agents who assist passengers with disabilities and care for unaccompanied minors. Those who maintain safety and efficiency behind the scenes and who have assisted me and many other flight crew. Introducing CASE into committee is one step towards addressing this injustice. It creates better wages, benefits, and working conditions, while also helping CLT scale up to growing travel demands and addressing the housing and wage disparity. Say yes to CASE. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Dave Molinaro and Susie Canali. They're our next two speakers. Ms. Canali, or who would like to go first?
Good evening. My name is Lisa Diefendorfer. I am Susie Canali's loyal steed who had to be out of town tonight.
Okay.
I am the senior attorney at Safe Alliance in the Victim Assistance Court Program, where Susie Canali is the chief legal officer. I'm joined here tonight by our chief program officer, Corey Goldstein. We'd like to express our deep concern for the projected funding reduction from the Financial Partners Grant. Victim Assistance and the City of Charlotte have a long history of working together. We've actually received funding from the City of Charlotte since 2008. This long-term funding has helped Victim Assistance provide critical services to those experiencing domestic violence and sexual assault. We view this funding as a partnership between Safe Alliance and the City of Charlotte, given the crucial life-saving impact our services provide each year. More specifically, we see our work as a supplement to that of our community partners that directly ties into your strategic priority of establishing safe communities. We closely partner with law enforcement, the district attorney's office, local hospitals, and other community partners to not only increase safety for survivors, but also for the entire city, especially that of our law enforcement officers. There is research tying domestic violence to community safety initiatives, including correlations between domestic violence and mass shootings, and identified crime data showing that domestic violence offenders present extreme risks to law enforcement officers. This funding also helps Safe Alliance staff our crisis hotline, ensuring that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, community members such as yourself and law enforcement officers have immediate access to learn about and connect to services provided by Safe Alliance. Hotline staff work in partnership with CMPD to utilize the Evidence-Based Lethality Assessment Protocol, or LAP. LAP is a resource officers use within the field to assess a victim's risk of being killed or seriously injured. Law enforcement then connect with Safe Alliance while physically with the victim to offer immediate safety.
All right, so we have a little bit of an issue here because you need to sign up before you're going to speak, and if she was not here to speak, she should have said that to you. So please go over to our clerk's office section and sign up with your name and appropriate. This is one time, but do not expect this kind of possibility again. Thank you. Please, if you join the clerk.
Now you let somebody from the wait list.
I don't think any of us know that she wasn't going to be.
But what about?
Mr. Molinaro, you can.
Am I on?
Yes.
Please.
Dave Molinaro, leader, Mason Wallace Park Advocates, here speaking on behalf of trees. Trees are steadfast guardians of shade on scorching days, are architects of fresh and clean air, and upon occasion, the quiet listeners to our personal woes. But currently in Charlotte, blink, and they're gone. In 1970, singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell lamented, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged all the people $1.50 just to see them." It would be an exaggeration to say that Charlotte will end up putting trees in a museum, wouldn't it? But stroll past any lot cleaned of trees, any single-family home, and you might wonder. We watch as bulldozers roll in, cleaning entire lots down to bare earth before construction begins. Destruction before construction.
All right, folks watching here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we're turning now quickly here to some breaking news just into our Live Impact News studio. New aerial images coming to us from Los Angeles, California, where we are hearing that there have been multiple people shot, and there are 2 teens, 1 adult amongst those who are injured rushed to the hospital following the shooting. This is happening in Boyle Heights. We're seeing this for folks who are familiar with the area, North Soto Street and East Cesar E. Chavez Avenue. It happened around 4 o'clock local time, so around an hour ago is from what we can tell, based on the time difference between here on the East Coast and what we're seeing there in LA. This is an area that's actually in the LA area just to the east of, I'd say approximately Chinatown, but we see this is a stretch that is roped off right now to the general public as this investigation is underway. Once again, 3 victims at the very least reported, transported to the hospital following a shooting there in the Boyle Heights neighborhood. Sounds like LA Fire Department is also responding to the scene. So in addition to the police presence we've got fire department and of course the medic services in the area who would have responded to help with the shooting victims. Unsure conditions right now. It looks like fire department believes that those who were shot are between the ages of 16 and 20 years old. So developing scene here that we're watching here on Live Impact News. As we get more, we'll certainly pass it along. But from the very least, we can tell you it does look like the area is going to be closed off for the foreseeable future. North Soto Street, it looks like that's going to be the street just based on the aerials that we're seeing that's running basically along the left to right portion of your screen. So we're looking at Soto Street itself. And this is the cross street with East Cesar E. Chavez Avenue. They've got multiple buildings blocked off here, which is interesting to see. So we're not sure exactly where this scene might have originated, whether it was one of the buildings or if for some reason police have reason to believe that all 3 buildings were involved, or part of the shooting scene. Nevertheless, we see that's closed off. We can see it looks like the sidewalk is closed as we move towards the left portion of the screen as you get closer to the intersection. And hard to tell basically by the wide shot that we're seeing here, but I believe I do see evidence markers down there on the sidewalk. So usually those are yellow small cards that we see officers put down around certain items of interest that might be at a scene. For example, shell casings. That's usually where we'll see those type of evidence markers used. I see what appears to be, once again, it's a wide shot, so difficult to tell. It looks like there might be several evidence markers down there, particularly as you look towards the left portion of the screen. If you look very closely, it looks like you might have several evidence markers there on the sidewalk as you get closer to the crosswalk there of East Cesar E. Chavez Avenue. If we get a closer look, we'll be able to kind of get a better idea of whether those are indeed evidence markers, but the wider view does actually give us a better vantage point as far as the larger scale blockages in the area, because we can even see crime scene tape up towards the top portion of the frame. So it looks like Chavez Avenue is closed as well, in addition to, as we mentioned, North Soto Street. Haven't seen a whole lot of police officer activity in the sense I'm not seeing a lot of folks milling around, so I'm not sure if they're in a holding pattern or if they're waiting for more folks to arrive with their crime scene investigative unit. But, obviously we've got the patrol cars out there and we're seeing a couple of officers actually out of the vehicles on scene, securing the actual scene itself, but have yet to really see, as far as this vantage point, any sort of evidence collection or them bringing out, for example, like I said, like a CSI truck. So keep in mind, this is a raw, unedited feed that we're watching here on Live Impact News. So the chopper shot itself, not under our control, but us bringing it to you, certainly under our control. If we start to see them pivot back towards the scene or we get any new information, we will definitely pass that along to you. But just to quickly recap what we've learned here on Live Impact News, there's a shooting scene. Multiple people are injured, including 2 teens and 1 young adult. Fire department believes that those shot range in age from 16 to 20 years old. And this is happening in the Boyle Heights neighborhood, which is going to be east and slightly south, depending on what part of the neighborhood you're talking about, of the Chinatown area there in LA. Okay, let's Pivot back now towards City of Charlotte. We've been seeing, of course, meeting underway, public comment. I believe we've gotten out of the actual free comment section. It looks like they might be talking about a firehouse. Okay, so we can listen in for just a little bit, and as we get more detail once again out of LA, keep in mind too, we're watching severe weather out to our west as well, Minnesota and Iowa areas. We'll hop back in with some updates for you.
Position. Hearing none, that's unanimous. The next public hearing is on a resolution to close a portion of right-of-way off of South Gardner Avenue. We're now opening for a public hearing. Is there on a resolution to close a portion of the right-of-way off South Gardner Avenue? Madam Clerk, any speakers?
No, ma'am.
No speakers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? All right, the next item is item 12. We're now going to hear the public hearing on the Airport 2025 General Airport Revenue Bonds. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
No, ma'am.
Without any speakers, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and to adopt the resolutions authorizing and approving the issuance of general airport revenue bonds up to $350 million and calling for the execution and delivery of various documents necessary to the sale?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Could you repeat who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Ms. Ashmira and then Mr. Driggs?
Asked if there wasn't.
Okay, so we.
made a motion.
Okay. Anyone want to speak on the motion? Hearing nobody speaking on the motion, all in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously, so that goes us through. Next, we're going to move into the policy section of our agenda, and I believe that I would turn it over to the manager so that we can discuss the information that he has on community areas.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We weren't able to get this done in 267, so as I mentioned at the end of the meeting, we will have Monica Holmes and her team come up to provide you the next step of our community area planning. I guess the spoiler alert is at the end that we're going forward to get to the end of May for a council action, and this keeps us on track with that discussion. So, Mayor, unless there are questions, I'd like to turn it over to Monica.
All right.
Okay.
Monica, go for it.
Thank you for having us here tonight, and I am actually going to keep my remarks pretty short and then turn it over to my wonderful staff to talk through the presentation. So high level, as we released the community area plans on April 3rd, the drafts, all 14 of them. This was a huge effort, 2 years in the making. It built on the adoption of the 2040 plan from June 2021 and the adoption of the policy map in 2022. And it refines and provides further guidance on both the policy map and the area plans. There are 14 of them. They provide both assessments, an updated policy map, and a clear roadmap as to how we would like to grow as a city. So tonight I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Cornett, who is our long-range division manager, and Catherine Mahoney, who is the project manager for the community area plans. We also have Dave Pettin here for any additional questions as we talk about how these area plans impact the work that you do and impact our residents. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy.
Thanks, Monica, and thanks very much for the opportunity to present the community area plans as an information item. So we released the plans, as Monica said, on April 3rd, and we've had a chance to walk through them and the content with many of you individually, which has been very helpful. And as you can see,
Folks, we'll continue to monitor the latest out of Charlotte City Council's meeting. Meantime, we mentioned the fact that elsewhere in the nation, we're dealing with weather impacts. Several states, including Minnesota and Iowa, dealing with severe weather, threat of tornadoes, hail reported. So we want to take you back to our coverage here. KARE 11 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, sharing some of the impacts they're watching there. And of course, anything big and breaking will break back in here on Live Impact News.
Storm is moving still at around 45
miles an hour. So these things are really still moving at a good pace. So we're going to change our speed here to 45 miles an hour, and we'll take it from right about the center of that system, and we'll go out 45 minutes. We'll take a look at this polygon. We'll see what other locations pop up with it. So right now it is basically over the town of Center, as you can clearly see there. 713 Mission, Perry Lake at 718 Ross Lake. A little bit later, almost at the bottom of the hour there, at 727 Morrison 740. We get closer to Logan 749. So as we move to the very eastern, northeastern extent of that polygon, about 7:45 to 7:50 this evening. Severe thunderstorm warning there. And again, likely this one is going to have, in fact, we'll get that. Let me take a look at some of the information we have with it and see what the reports are. It looks like right now we have a severe thunderstorm warning. It's near Cuyuna Country State Park, and that's about 15 miles northeast of Brainerd. This thing is moving at a pretty good pace, 45 miles an hour to the northeast. Ping pong size hail, and that is going to be indicated by radar. I'll check over here with the Weather Service, and we'll see if we have any news coming in from them. We'll probably have to check in with the Duluth National Weather Service and see what they have for us. They may have some information on this one. No, it doesn't look like they have any storm reports to share with us on that one. Check one more source here. And yeah. So again, we're going to be talking about the possibility of some ping pong size hail right around Center. And again, if you're checking in and you happen to be up in the Brainerd Lakes area, looks like this will stay north of Deerwood. So we're going to be looking north, definitely north of Highway 18. You can take Deerwood into Crosby there, Highway 6, taking you by Serpent Lake, and likely you're going to have some of that pretty heavy rainfall. I don't know if we have any, I doubt we have any cameras up there, if the producers have any MnDOT cameras in that part of the region. But again, folks around this area, we are going to be talking about some ping pong size hail, some pretty good wind gusts with this, as well as just some very intense rainfall. So we're here Monday evening, folks up there, again, turning in for the evening. But you're going to have this isolated cell making its way through the area after most of this has already cleared out. There is still this risk that we could still have a little bit of these isolated thunderstorms beginning to fire up around parts of northern Minnesota. The forecast models have been indicating that, but you can see again, we do have one rather intense storm system there, a little north of Brainerd, northern half of Crow Wing County, moving into the northern portion of Aiken County. This will end up being just a little north of the town of Aiken itself. Producers tell me we don't have cameras that are working up there right now, but for folks in, again, the Brainerd Lakes area, if you're up on the Iron Range, if you're in cabin country, still some passing showers for tonight, and yes, occasionally we could see something a little on the stronger side beginning to fire up in parts of northern Minnesota. We're going to clear this out if we can. Now let's go back out and take a look at what we got going on to the southeast. We'll see if we have any current warnings right now. Looks like we're going to be down to 2 different warnings in terms of our...
Okay, folks, we'll keep an eye on the weather impacts out west of us, but we did want to take you back to the town of Matthews meeting where we have Board of Commissioners set to give possible update on a potential partnership with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education for location of Discovery Place Kids in the Matthews area. We've talked about how Discovery Place is going to have a location in Matthews sometime in the next couple of years, it sounds like. There might be a potential location spot with a partnership with New Matthews Elementary School. Downtown Park project might be included in this whole discussion. Looks like we've got some figures. Are you hearing any audio, Jeb?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's listen in live, and we'll come back with any big breaking updates, folks.
That this was going to be coming. It was just a matter of a couple of months to make it happen. So all of that has been modeled out to make sure that we can account for everything when those payments do actually hit in future years. But because the board hasn't formally taken action, you don't see it in this model.
What is the general fund balance percentage projected for the end of this fiscal year? Any idea?
Not at this time.
How about the current fund balance percentage?
For the general fund,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that right off the top of my head, but I can.
You would only have that for
6/30/2024.
For 6/30/2024.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't keep a projected fund balance month to month?
We do track the appropriations that have been approved by the board. However, we do not have the capacity to project how the expenditures are going to play out against, and whether every allocation approved by the board will actually have to take place. In other words, if you appropriated $1 million in fund balance and we only ended up spending $700,000, at the end, then there's a $300,000 delta that will go into fund balance instead of coming out as it was appropriated.
Well, here's where I'm going with this. If we have a very comfortable fund balance, I would like to suggest, but without that number, my suggestion is going to be mute, is that we take some of the fund balance surplus that puts us well over the 34% or whatever it is that we're have adjudicated for ourselves, that we take some of that against the loan and then finance the rest. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is I have real concerns about the the tourism fund. We've got a number of parks that are coming on board that we're going to be hitting with development and maintenance costs.
Those do not come out of the tourism fund.
Well, the development would.
No.
You can, we bought a
Only
house-
the things
we-
at the
we-
community center and special events come out
We
of
bought a house
tourism.
right next to mine out of a tourism fund.
If you're referring to there's one anticipated park project that would qualify for tourism funds, that is the one that we are speaking about tonight. All of the other park development is paid for with general funds.
Okay. But at any rate, constantly hitting the tourism fund is causing me concern, especially if we're going to be doing a lot of park work in terms of acquiring more park or that nature. So I'm wondering if we knew what that surplus was, if we could take some money out of the surplus and then fund the rest with a long-term installment. We did that actually we backtracked ourselves on the DeVore property, if you recall. We were going to pay ourselves back with a loan which made absolutely 0 sense. So we were able to pull it out of the general fund then. I'm wondering if we can accomplish something close to that here.
I can speak to that, Commissioner Tefano. So the difference with the DeVore property is that it was purchased with general fund dollars to begin with, and there was a concern about what that would do to our overall fund balance. And so there was an initial plan to go out and seek debt financing to pay back the general fund to be able to make smaller payments over time. But all of the funds in that case came out of the general fund. When we got to the end of the fiscal year and we realized that we had more of a fund balance than we thought we would, it was no longer necessary because we were going to be able to maintain our general fund balance without having to do that. The difference in this case, and certainly it's the will of the board, but the difference in this case is when we went to acquire this property, we knew that it qualified for use of tourism funds, but we didn't have a large enough tourism fund balance in order to pay cash, and we needed to move quickly on this deal or it was going to go away. And so we had enough cash on hand in our general fund to go ahead and make that cash payment so that we could acquire the property. But we typically advise that if something does qualify for use of tourism funds, you absolutely want to use tourism funds any opportunity that you can, because it reserves our general fund for all of the other things that we have to figure out how to pay for that don't have the option to use tourism fund funding. So certainly it would be the will of the board, but we would certainly continue to recommend that pursuing this path does allow us to completely pay for this property using tourism funds. It doesn't touch our general fund. It doesn't touch our property taxes. And we can reserve those funds for another purpose that doesn't have the benefit of the eligibility that this project does.
When you took 1.7 million out of the general fund to pay for that property, what did it do to our fund balance percentage?
I don't have that information offhand, but the information that we last showed you that showed what our fund balance was, that was a presentation. Teresa, you had some graphs for something else. I can't remember what it was now, but that would have taken that into account because we acquired this property in December. I don't have that information
The point I'm
offhand.
trying to make is if it was okay.
We'll continue to monitor this discussion underway in Matthews. Meantime, we wanted to turn over to a new live feed that's just popped in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We have Minnesota Governor Tim Walz discussing his thoughts on the future of the Democratic Party and also reflections back on the 2024 campaign. Of course, once VP candidate here speaking on that. And we know following the election within the Democratic Party, a lot of soul searching that was underway about perhaps what went wrong and what the party could do to kind of shore itself up next time around. So let's listen in. And as always, we'll take you back to the latest happenings, live feeds coming in as soon as we get them.
Get it. People don't know that when that went away, now conservative, liberal, non-engaged parents are going to find out how fragile the situation is with their child to get them to where they need to be. And I would say when you become Secretary of Education, it needs to be less, the experts will do the pedagogy, they'll help figure out the Pell Grants and things. This is about the genius of the American public education system and access to everyone to get in there. And I think about that we've lost that piece of it, and we allowed them to believe that this was about a woke Department of Education that simply had the audacity to believe that we shouldn't warehouse this child. Maybe we can get him to a point where he can live a full life. I, as a parent, am very grateful for that. I'm also very worried that that's going to go away. So go do that and sell it.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Up here, and then here, and then I don't know if you have one up the rafters. So.
Hi, thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is.
Does that feel cool being up on that balcony?
It's a nice view.
One of my favorite seats in the forum. But my name is Annabelle, and I'm a senior at the college. And I just wanted to ask, so I think there's an understanding that one of the larger problems facing the Democratic Party is that Democratic voters fail to unite behind a candidate. I think you saw that in 2016 when voters didn't vote for Hillary, Democratic voters didn't vote for Hillary, and again in 2024. And I think Democrats struggle with making like the perfect the enemy of the good. And I think that is a problem of messaging, but I was curious what you think Democrats and Democratic Party leadership can do to resolve that problem and hopefully win some elections.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question.
It's a tough question, and I actually agree with you on this, and it's really hard. I was mentioning upstairs, in Minnesota, we have Democratic Party does an endorsing convention, and they endorse their candidates for the offices. And I went to get the endorsement for governor in 2018, and I didn't get it. So I ran in a primary, and I won in that. That's considered somewhat disloyal by some folks or whatever, but I won the general election. And we passed Democratic policies, and the person I ran against is one of my closest allies in getting those things done. So I think part of this is that if we want to be a big tent, we want to take the ideas in this, we have to be willing to be challenged on those ideas. We have to understand, and it's got to be that the policies and the improvement of life is certainly bigger than any personality or anybody running. That's the part that I think we have to get by. Now, the problem with that is the public as a whole believes you need to elect this charismatic leader who's going to carry us over the finish line, and we stick with that. And if it's not our person, we do get a little bit bitter on it. So I know I'm just re-explaining the problem. I do think, I would hope, and we saw this, that the threat is enough to realize, but it wasn't in this last election. There were enough people that said on issues that were very divisive, said there's no difference between the candidates. They're the same, and they stayed home. I think, one, we need to make it clearer than that, and two, this is where Donald Trump will help us, the consequences of not getting that right are pretty catastrophic. So I think we have to keep with that. But I'm actually okay with challenging the status quo inside the party with new ideas and fresh ideas. But I do think once we pick a candidate, we've got to all agree that you got to go. Until we get a multi-party. Look, the goddamn Brits again. I would take more of a parliamentary approach to this, because that it would make us compromise, because there's no compromise. If we had 15 parties right now, you'd have to build a coalition. How do you think he was going to build a coalition with the Greens or anything? He can't even build a coalition with the Libertarians, because there's nothing libertarian about what they're doing right now. So,
Thank you.
All right, over here.
Hi, thanks for our speaker. I'm honored to be here. My name is Nai Kalima. I'm a PhD student in Innovation and Public Policy at the University College London. And also from Minnesota, originally, product of Anoka Hennepin County.
We're everywhere.
My question is, I'm really interested, I'm also a Tech and Human Rights Fellow at the Carr and Ryan Center here. And so I'm really interested in digital transformation in government and have been paying a lot of attention to what's happening with DOGE. I want to ask, in terms of rethinking public value alongside digital transformations that are happening in government, what do you think should be at the forefront in terms of priorities? Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And this goes back again, if we want to have bold leadership, if we want to have transformational government, we have to have effective government. And one of the things is this is where these tech guys, there is something to be said about this. They're bold, they break norms, they tear things down, which is good if you're coming up with a new iPhone. It's terrible if it's your mom's Social Security check that might not show up.
Okay, folks, it looks like we've got a few more details coming out of the Town of Matthews meeting. We mentioned there was a discussion about Discovery Place Kids and the new location coming to Matthews. We're seeing a timeline now being presented, so we wanted to listen in and see if we can glean a little bit more information.
Looking at the areas of the Matthews Elementary School site that could potentially make a great park space. We were aware that the Matthews Elementary School site was likely to be replaced if the bonds were to be approved, and so we knew that the school would be moving somewhere from that current location, and looking at that front parcel and thinking about maybe what could be when we compare it to existing Stumptown Park. That is an amazing space. We get thousands and thousands of users every year, but it is a tight space. It's only a few acres in size, and it certainly runs out of space with great regularity. The town was approached in 2023 by Discovery Place, and they said, have we got an idea for you? And they noted that they were interested in expanding their children's museum operations, and they were interested in coming to Matthews because they felt like what Matthews stands for is in alignment with their vision of community and family and learning, and just a great place for people to come and spend their time. We performed a feasibility study because the question was, where can a museum go? Where could we even fit a space like this? And the study consultants looked at a number of different places that might work, and also identified that probably one of our best possible places would be somewhere on this Matthews Elementary School site. Corresponding with that timeline, the voters, of course, approved the school bonds for CMS, and Matthews Elementary School was listed as one of the highest priority projects for replacement. The potential partnership with Discovery Place was formally explored as far back as the winter of 2023, and those conversations continued about what could be, and we hammered out a lot of the details of just how to make something like this come to life. We made a few key property acquisitions during this time. We mentioned one of them earlier, 251 South Trade. was purchased back in 2023, and then just in December of 2024, we purchased 2 additional parcels, 269 and 307 South Trade, as we started to believe that this could actually become a reality. As you'll recall, just a couple of months ago, this board was able to finally let the cat out of the bag and talk about Discovery Place, and we entered into a development and management agreement that we are promising to deliver them a museum by 2030. And corresponding with that, the Matthews Parks and Recreation Game Plan was also approved that outlined some of the potential future uses and opportunities for park space. I think Maureen is going to flip for me because I'm not sure what I did to the clicker. So what is being proposed? What is being proposed is a partnership opportunity with CMBE. We all know them as CMS, but CMBE is their official name, that will consist of, first and foremost, replacing Matthews Elementary School on the existing site. We know that there's been some rumors in town about where might it go, where might it not go. This unequivocally says that the town board is interested in seeing the school rebuilt on site and not having it go anywhere from the downtown location. Co-located with the Matthews Elementary School site will be a children's museum. And we know the name of it, but that's on the next slide. And so that would be incorporated into the design. So you would essentially be looking at a larger footprint than what you would for just a school, but it's under a single roof. And so it allows for a lot of efficiencies in cost and design in order to make this happen, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Rounding out this proposal would be a land swap, and this is pretty critical here. So what we are proposing is that the current front footprint of Matthews Elementary School that fronts Trade Street would become town-owned property and would be used to build a new signature downtown park that would eventually replace Stumptown Park. We would swap that with a portion of the property at McKee and Pleasant Plains, and that would become CMBE property for future Relief School site. And the importance of this is it would allow us to have ownership of the park property when we develop it. It would give us control over it, but it also allows CMS to make plans for any future school needs that they might have many decades down the road, so that they're not left without land should they need to eventually add a school in the area. So to give you a little bit of a visual, this is the existing Matthews Elementary School site. The thick white border is the existing school property. And this is not to scale, but this is to just give a general sense of the area that we're talking about. The red parcels towards the front are the 3 parcels that the town has acquired over the recent few years. And at the back, the blue oval would be the co-located school and museum site. Where the existing school sits is the general area where we would then be able to develop a new Stumptown Park, keeping in context to the additional parcels that we owned that would be incorporated into that master plan, that would allow for connectivity back to the school, would allow for on-property queuing, which is very important to get the cars off of Trade Street, and would also allow a separate access. So as we envision it, at least preliminarily, there would be a separate school entrance and then a separate museum entrance, them both meeting together at the back of the site, but then vehicles aren't competing to try to get into one location or the other, depending on what is going on at the time of day. So how would this work? We are presently completing surveys of all of the sites, and CMS is completing appraisals of all of the sites to be able to bring this together in a formal way. The exact boundaries for land to be swapped would be determined based on the values that come back for those appraisals, as well as the usability of the site. We want to make sure that the land that would be preserved for a future CMS relief site is actually buildable and would meet their needs. And then the valuation will help us determine just how much property we would be able to get at the downtown location, while also making sure that we provide enough acreage at the McKee and Pleasant Plains site for a school to actually be built in the future. We would be looking to master plan the entire existing Matthews Elementary School site, along with the 3 adjacent parcels that are owned by the town, and that would all be put under the umbrella of the school's replacement project. They have to get through their own budget process in order to issue those bonds, but we're hearing thumbs up and good news that that will be moving forward as the next tranche of bonds that are released. And so design of this project could begin as early as this summer. CMBE would manage construction of the entire project on the existing school property. And we would add the park portion to actually go ahead and upfit the park would be an add alternate to the construction bid package. That would allow us to get a hard cost of what that would require to make sure that that would be feasible. If it's not feasible financially, then that would be something that would be a phased approach that we could then come back at a later date and develop that park, but it would allow us to at least move forward on the museum as part of the school construction. And a few more details. A cost share agreement would allow the school to move forward with the construction and management of the project, and then the town would be responsible for all of the costs that were in excess of what they would have been spending on the school project already. And we would not have to make payments on that cost difference until the end of the project, which is estimated to be 2029 or 2030. As noted in some of our earlier conversation, the town costs associated with this project are eligible for tourism funds. We have used cost estimates from our conversations with CMS to build that into our financial model for the tourism fund, and we do feel comfortable that based on very conservative assumptions, we would be able to fully fund the cost of the museum with our existing anticipated revenues in the future years. And again, we would need to know the cost of the park to do some better modeling for that, but we would certainly hope that as much of that as possible would also be able to use the tourism fund to be able to make that happen all in one fell swoop. The land swapped at the McKee and Pleasant Plains location would remain unused by the school system unless they had a future need for the relief school site. So they would certainly own it, but it would look like a park. We would just make sure that any of our notable investments in the development of that park were made on property that we retained. So you might have some nature trails, or you might have some parking that went on an area owned by the school, but we wouldn't put any of our significant investment in the acreage that they owned. But for all intents and purposes, it would continue to look like a 27-acre park up to and until they had a use and a need for that property. Once that occurred, if it ever did occur, the remaining acreage at that park site would still remain for park usage. So there is still enough buildable property at that location that you're not having to make a trade-off of having to give up the park. It would then be a co-location.
Okay, folks, so watching live Impact News here on WCNC Plus as we're getting updates from the town of Matthews and getting a few more ideas about how this new Discovery Place Kids location would work in the Matthews area. Generally speaking, it seems like this might be some sort of cost-sharing endeavor that the town might embark upon with CMS in order to, as they're calling it, co-locate, so essentially have all of these different places sharing one location in a ways, have the new Discovery Place Kids in one spot, in the same place where the new Matthews Elementary School would be, and also potentially a new downtown park location. And so we'll keep an eye on this. Of course, we'll have the very latest for you on this on the news coming up at 11 here on WCNC Plus. And as always, as we get anything big and breaking happening out of this meeting or others that we've been watching around the region and around the nation, in fact, we will bring you there. But we did want to talk about a cool launch that we saw finally taking off today. So this is the Amazon rocket launch. United Launch Alliance sending its Atlas V rocket into space. Seems like this was a success from what we can tell from all of the updates. And a little bit of a background here. This, of course, as we mentioned, Amazon, this is Jeff Bezos's Project Kuiper, who's essentially kind of a competitor now, trying to compete with SpaceX, Elon Musk, and the Starlink satellites. So Project Kuiper would bring this global network of satellites there on the Amazon side. So we wanted to take you to this launch, which actually kind of kicked off just as we were starting Live Impact News, so we weren't able to bring it to you live. But we wanted to show you how everything went and kind of get a little bit of a narration on the process of this launch. So let's listen in now.
At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Atlas, Go Centaur, Go Kuiper. This is the final status check for the rocket and the payload.
To dampen the acoustic shock at liftoff, at T-minus 6 seconds, the launch pad's water deluge system activates, followed a few seconds later by the RD-180 booster engine ignition. Then, after seeing Atlas lift off, you'll hear flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing the updates as the rocket ascends. So, as you might have noticed, voices playing in the background of this broadcast, that is actually voices being played on our Channel 1 broadcast, which is our internal net system. So hearing that provides a unique commentary that you normally don't see in this industry, and it kind of gives you a feel of what our exact engineers feel when they are sitting on console here. So we are listening to that together live.
Yeah, very cool to be hearing Channel 1, the launch conductor, as well as the team as we proceed into these final minutes prior to launch. You'll hear them working through all those final steps leading up to the T0, which is now 1 minute past the hour at 7:01 Eastern Time.
Yeah, and thinking about how big this moment is and how excited we are to partner with Amazon, that is about to bring a constellation that's basically going to change the world in terms of internet connectivity. And it's really cool that we're doing this on Atlas, which is the OG of rockets. And Atlas has launched so many unique missions and unique payloads and set so many records in the space industry. So it's really cool to see a payload that's both going to share on Atlas and Vulcan as we ride into this future of ULA together.
Really is cool to launch this new era, and we were so excited about talking about Atlas. We went right past the T-4 hold release, so you can see that hold is released and the clock is counting. We are at just about T-minus 3 minutes and 18 seconds.
After liftoff, ULA's Atlas V rocket will fly northeast from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's flight.
Following final confirmation of rocket readiness, the RD-180 engine and 5 GEM 63 solid rocket boosters ignite to produce more than 2 million pounds of thrust, lifting ULA's Atlas V rocket away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, the rocket begins a pitchover to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the dynamic pressure it experiences during flight. Atlas then reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound. The addition of 5 solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, precisely augment the liftoff thrust of the Atlas V, giving it the power to deliver the payload to orbit. With their propellant expired approximately 96 seconds into ascent, the SRBs burn out, followed by jettison. Atlas's guidance system then begins steering towards the precise target in space. Amazon's Kuiper satellites are encapsulated inside a 5-meter diameter payload fairing, which provides protection to the spacecraft during ascent. After crossing the Kármán line, entering space, the payload fairing is jettisoned. With the majority of propellant expended fighting against the force of gravity, the RD-180 engine shuts down and the booster stage separates. The rocket then begins second stage flight, weighing less than 7% of what it did at liftoff. ULA's high-performance Centaur, with its RL-10 engine, ignites, powering the upper stage and spacecraft into a circular low Earth orbit. The first burn comes to an end with engine shutdown, followed by Centaur orienting into the proper position to release Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites to begin building their low Earth orbit satellite broadband network.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Caleb Weiss here with Britt Porcelli for today's live coverage of ULA's Atlas V launch of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites.
At this time, the team is not working any issues, and we're proceeding towards our liftoff at 7:01 p.m. Eastern.
Range green. And we just came inside of T-minus 1 minute.
Stable at step 3.
ECS reduced for launch.
Verified.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go KA-01.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have ignition. 2, 1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs.
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation, marking the start of a new chapter in low Earth orbit satellite
View is
connectivity.
now on closed loop control. Engaging first throttle segment. And we've completed our pitch program. Engine operating parameters continue to look good. And we've successfully completed our roll program. Hydraulics continue to operate nominally. Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic. Body rates continue to look good. Engine continues to operate as expected. Throttling back up.
You are hearing Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing launch vehicle ascent data.
We are now 7 miles in altitude, moving at 1,700 miles an hour. Now passing 1 minute into flight. Vehicle continues to pass through the center of the range track as expected. SRBs continue to operate nominally. Throttling down, engine continues to burn as expected. Body rates continue to look good. Vehicle is now 1/2 of its liftoff weight. Max Q passing through max dynamic pressure. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have good indication of SRB burnout, 10 seconds from SRB jettison. Throttling back up. And we have good indication of jettison of all 5 SRBs. Engine continues to burn normally. We are now 32 miles in altitude, moving at 4,000 miles an hour.
We just heard confirmation of the solid rocket booster jettison. These additional motors augmented the thrust at liftoff to give Atlas rocket an extra boost to reach its circular low Earth orbit destination. These SRBs are called GEM 63s, which stand for graphite epoxy motor and are 63 inches in diameter. The most obvious difference you'll see between Atlas and Vulcan SRBs is the nose cone shape. Vulcan has a conical nose cone, whereas Atlas has a duckbill or ogive shape. We're coming up here on our next mission event, jettison of the payload fairing. Let's listen in to Sarah.
Continues to move down the center of the range track and is moving at 5,300 miles an hour. Body rates continue to operate nominally. And we are now holding acceleration at 2.5 Gs in preparation for payload fairing jettison. And we have activated the Centaur reaction control system. And we have passed the Kármán line. We have exited Earth's atmosphere. Vehicle is now 1/4 of its liftoff weight. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison. And good indication of CFLR deck jettison. Engine continues to operate as expected.
Flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow just called out
Body rates
confirmation
continue to
of payload fairing jettison.
Continue to look good.
The composite fairing protects the spacecraft as it pushes through the harshest parts of the atmosphere. Next, we'll hear callouts for cutoff of the Atlas first stage engine and separation of the booster stage, followed by ignition of ULA Centaur's second stage.
These events occur when the first stage has escaped Earth's atmosphere, getting above the Kármán line and into space. The Centaur upper stage, with the Kuiper satellites attached, then takes over on a trajectory to a precise location in space. Let's just listen in as we approach these milestones.
Body rates are smooth. Hydraulics continue to look good. 30 seconds to pico. Boost phase chill down in progress. Temperatures are operating as expected. PU has gone to open loop control as expected. Engine continues to operate nominally. And we've completed boost phase chill down as expected. And we have good indication of booster engine cutoff. And we have good indication of Centaur separation.
Restart on fuel and locks. Good staging. Ignition and full thrust. Arlington is running nominally. Steering has been enabled as expected. Engines are continuing to operate as expected.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T+5 minutes. We just heard flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow confirm the successful completion of today's early milestones in today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. So what we saw today, we had a nice smooth countdown, beautiful weather, beautiful liftoff, and Atlas V is on its way to orbit to take those 27 Kuiper satellites, put them on their way, and really start this new era in internet connectivity. So Atlas is on its way to making history again, Britt.
And that's what you love to see, Caleb. You love to see a nominal launch, not working any issues, and the weather window work perfectly and open up right for us at the beginning of our launch window. So as we wrap up today's live coverage, we wanted to say thank you to all of you who have tuned in on today's flight and remind everybody that for more information about ULA and the Atlas V rocket, please visit ulalaunch.com and subscribe to our ULA Launch YouTube channel. And before we sign off, let's take one last look at today's liftoff.
Okay. So folks, we're seeing now basically the update from the Amazon rocket launch, putting new satellites into space. This is with the United Launch Alliance. Amazon's Project Kuiper, as you just heard those narrators there speaking on the launch window. We'd prefaced this before here on WCNC Plus, but that launch window tonight was between 7 and 9 p.m. and they lifted off right within the window as soon as it opened. 7:01 is when they were able to successfully launch from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station this evening. And we talked about the fact that this is an Amazon initiative that is essentially going to create a bit of a rivalry here with Elon Musk and Starlink as far as putting connectivity equipment into space. Just a few minutes ago, United Launch Alliance tweeted out an update for us saying that they had successfully deployed those satellites. So seemingly everything going off without a hitch after what we saw before, April 9th, earlier this month, there, had to be scrubbing of that launch because of weather. So finally getting things underway. We want to turn now to some breaking news just into our Live Impact News studio. Really heartbreaking updates that we're seeing from Illinois. We want to get to a statement that was just tweeted out from Governor Pritzker there, and this is regarding a crash that has taken the lives of children, from what we understand. So this is from Chatham, Illinois, and the governor there remarking on the tragedy there, indicating that he's been briefed on the situation, extending prayers and condolences, and just reiterating that authorities will be thoroughly investigating the situation. Here's the information as we understand it at this hour. 4 people are dead after a vehicle struck a school camp program there in Chatham, and we're hearing those who are dead are between the ages of 4 and 18 years old. So once again, this is developing right now as we speak. Authorities at this point say that they haven't had any indication that this was intentional. However, nonetheless, the death toll here, very staggering to think of, not only in the scope, but also who is actually impact, the fact that these are children. This was a school camp program. Apparently these were folks who were outside the building. There was one person who was inside who was also among the dead, so seemingly the impact of this vehicle collision strong enough to not only hurt people who were outside, but also essentially go through the building potentially and hurt somebody who was inside. Several others injured. So 4 killed, several others injured. We know that injuries were severe enough that there was at least one person who had to be taken to the hospital by medical helicopter. And this happened around 3:20 in the afternoon. Police saying the vehicle drove into the east side of the building. It's an after-school camp. It's called Why Not, like the letter Y, N-O-T. It struck, as we mentioned, several people inside after having, been able to actually get into the building following the collision. There was only one person inside the vehicle, from what we understand. It was just the driver. The driver is in the hospital with injuries, and we're unsure exactly that person's condition. And as we've mentioned before, we are unsure of whether this was an intentional act, but we are seeing folks there in Illinois trying to wrap their arms around each other and really have the community come together, seeing a lot of statements asking for prayer. Looks like the police department, in fact, posted something this evening saying, if you believe in the power of prayer, take a moment to pray now for the entire Chatham community. And that post we are seeing, posted about an hour ago, garnering about 2,000 reactions on Facebook and nearly 500 shares. So people definitely feeling the impact of this tragic instance. But once again, we'll keep you posted here on Live Impact News as we get the very latest. We're so far not getting any imagery from the scene, so no live feeds. We're not seeing any images coming quite yet, but if we do, we'll take you there. So with that, we do want to turn back to City of Charlotte. That meeting is still underway. City Council has been discussing various items since we last checked in. It looks at this point like they're getting to affordable housing, which we know is a big topic here in the Charlotte area. Lots of folks and advocates always talking about the need to invest more into affordable housing so folks can live in the communities where they are also working. Let's listen in live now.
$1,500,000 in transit-oriented development, affordable housing development, bonus-free program, fee in lieu revenue to support the Urban Trends acquisition of approximately 4.5 acres in Council District 2 for the future development of affordable housing. So moved. Okay.
Oh, you have two more.
You got two more. We still have more. I mean, yes, we can move it, but now 16 is an authorize the city manager and the staff.
15 there, we're going to
I'm sorry, where's 15?
D and E.
Okay, here we go. We got D and E. Okay, D is approve an annual reimbursement to the Housing Collaborative in an amount not to exceed the Woodford Estates Development City Hall tax bill for a naturally occurring affordable housing rental subsidy program over a 20-year period for 34 new long-term rental subsidies for households earning 30% and below the area median income, and authorize the manager or his designee to execute, amend, modify, renew contracts and other documents required for the transactions. So now we can get to 16, which is, no?
You got to vote on motion.
Oh, my gosh. We have a motion? And a second?
We have a motion?
There was so moved.
Yeah, I thought we had both of you guys down there. Okay, so those are items that I've read through from 15 and more.
Ms. Molina.
Okay. All right, Ms. Molina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, we're still in the vote, and actually what I'm wanting to present to my colleagues tonight is me and the 4 at-large members. You had some residents in District 5 to contact you. I organized a meeting last week to make the community aware of the affordable property that is the one Haven Ridge at Sharon Amity. And basically what the community raised as concerns, so I wanted to be clear, the community raised some concerns after we held the meeting, and I think we can get to a good spot, but I need more time with them. And I think it's only fitting for me to ask you to allow me to defer that particular one, maybe until our next business meeting.
Is that a motion?
Yes, so I'd like to substitute that, a substitute motion. Everything's fine, but I would like to actually substitute and move Haven Ridge at Sharon Amity until our next business meeting, if you'll allow me some time to have some more time with the residents, because they raised some concerns that I'd like to make sure that we get addressed. And I have already told the community that this is, it's pretty much by right, and I've explained that this is not a zoning petition, that this is, one of our 4% non-competitive loans. I explained as much as I can, but it was such a parenthesis of time that I know that with a little bit more time, we could address those concerns, we could get some equilibrium, and get to a good spot. So it's definitely not a denial. I'm in communication with the development, and where is Rebecca? Is she still here? Rebecca? And Rebecca's.
All right, folks, live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are monitoring, of course, here, City of Charlotte discussion. This is the affordable housing item we mentioned. We just wanted to let you know, as far as programming, we will, of course, have WCNC Charlotte News at 11 right here on WCNC Plus, so keep it here. We're going to have the very latest on that airport workers discussion. We saw them speaking out about better pay and conditions, so we have a reporter who will be putting that story together, and of course we'll have other big headlines for you coming up at 11, so keep it here. Thanks for tuning in on Live Impact News.